What's up guys, Foxen here. Attack on Titan chapter 118 is right around the corner. This video got a little bit delayed cause I got lost around Mount Fuji. But anyway, bad memories aside, definitely give this a colossal thumbs up and subscribe. You may not think it, but likes help a lot actually. Anyway, let's get on to my hopes and predictions, then your Patreon and Twitter questions. First off, let's talk about Eren. So this latest chapter finally confirming this guy having the WarHammer Titan powers, after so freaking long. At the same time, you had that new piece of information dropped by the Marley guy. Supposedly the WarHammer Titan really draining your Titan mana quickly. If you recall back, I don't think you've seen Willy tell this guy on screen that. So it really just makes you wonder, what else has Willy spilled to this guy before Willy eventually became Titan food? Either way, the key part here really goes back to this being a huge energy sink that Eren now supposedly has. To be fair to Eren, I'm sure this guy could overcome this, but he hasn't exactly been using the WarHammer Titan in battle. This is the first time. I'm predicting that the WarHammer Titan will ultimately be Eren's biggest restriction this time around. I'm almost doubting Eren could actually do the 3 Titan transformations at this point. It would be just a really fun thing to see this guy go Titan mode a second time, only for his Titan to be much smaller, maybe Jaws Titan size. Also, how about Eren going Titan mode the second time, but then that Titan actually turns out looking and functioning more like the Lady Warhammer Titan? That would be interesting. And yes, I do mean the non-coreless version. Better stay away from the Jaws Titan if that's the case. As for other things, supposedly we are in the Attack on Titan Endgame right now. Is Eren about to eat another Titan? At this point, I wouldn't even mind if it's another person that eats another Titan instead. These guys really need to start dropping down soon. If not a Titan, then someone else. This next chapter, I really hope we see more of the WarHammer Titan abilities being used. I'm talking about weapon creation. How about a bow to potentially shoot down the blimps? A sword, you know, Eren going back to using the swords he originally used as a scout, which hasn't even been much. Or how about a spear, a ball, a spike ball? All good stuff to give to the Beast Titan. And talking about the Beast Titan, next up let's talk about this guy. Yoro Nichan is back. It still is funny how Zeke went there, which is really hinting at either Zeke being fully on board Team Eren, or this guy really just being an actor some more. In the past, there's always been that supposed 11 intelligence stat for Zeke, but as you've recently been seeing, this guy is not some super Lelouch type of mastermind behind the scenes. To be fair, some of the stuff has been planned out, but then you take a look at some of the other stuff that's been happening, and arguably that's just been half-assed. Anyway, for the actual Beast Titan coming in the latest chapter, you got this super quick glimpse at the guys in jail. That included Commander Pixies and Falco. Oh yes, the Beast Titan is about to scream, so say hello to the new Beast Titan army. Maybe. Honestly, I don't see any reason for Zeke not to at least try screaming. Perhaps just some off chance that he doesn't want Eren to disapprove, since you know, Flock and those guys were trying really hard for Eren not to know that these guys were tainted with the wine. Next up, let's talk about Levi and Hange. I see there being a good chance to get teased at what happened with the whole Levi and Hange situation, both of these guys jumping into the river. Since all of those events took down with Levi and the Beast Titan, I've been surprised as the tons of people commenting about how Levi has died, even though I thought it was pretty clear that he didn't die, at least not yet. They really must have taken Hanji's words at face value, which is weird considering that even Flock didn't do that. Come on guys. Although for Levi, this guy is definitely not coming into battle anytime soon. That is, unless Isayama makes Hange give Levi some type of Titan steroid shot, only for Levi to go into battle then die off. That possibility is still on the table. Either way, I see Levi and Hange being teased by the wonderful Isayama troll. I'm still betting Isayama's gonna show like 1 or 2 panel shots out of context. It'll be something like Levi saying, "Cyclops, thanks for everything," or "This is the last time I screwed up," followed by Hange looking sad or crying, then bam, it cuts off. Isayama could easily use this as a chapter cliffhanger. Next up, let's talk about Armin, Mikasa, Jean, and the whole new Survey Corps trio in jail. I still have my money placed on Isayama using mindless Titans or Titan damage in general to the building just to get these guys out of that box. Come on, at this point, who isn't annoyed about these guys just sitting there doing nothing? Another option from the latest chapter I do see is Oyakopon running back and opening up the cell. Smaller chance for Yelena too. She might get desperate because their guys can't do anything. And yeah, I'm talking about the Eren Ass Kisser Club that's been mostly useless against Marley. As for the actual scouts in jail, I doubt they'll do much if they actually do get out this chapter, but really quickly I'll touch on each one. First off, Connie. This guy clearly hates Eren's balls right now. Same thing for the other Harry Jaeger brother. I really could see this guy losing control, then going after either of them immediately. Then due to that, Connie's gonna get hurt or killed from some side destruction going on. Or how about if this happens, Isayama might kill Connie off via one of the Marley snipers. That could then come full circle with the recent attack on Marley events. As for the Stallion has to have some type of meetup and back and forth with Flock. Keep in mind Flock is back too and he should be somewhere in the city, potentially going back to the building just to get the 3D maneuver gear. Isayama has clearly been setting these guys up for a while now, although I'm not too sure who makes it out alive if they do face off. The Stallion already hesitated once before, so hopefully he learned his lesson. It also feels like Isayama has been setting the Stallion to be this top leader, at least in the long term after the Attack on Titan events are done. Next up, Mikasa. Oh my god, Isayama, just do something with this girl. I recently been rewatching Attack on Titan Season 1 and Season 2, and much like Annie, it feels like Mikasa has so much potential, but Isayama has barely done much with her. And talking about Isayama, this guy's been super vocal about liking Game of Thrones, even to watch it. So, will Isayama take a page out of the recent terrible Game of Thrones season? In other words, will Mikasa Snow give Eren Targaryen a hug? And I know, some of you are screaming this. Isayama has actually hinted at not liking the final Game of Thrones season, thankfully. However, supposedly the final Game of Thrones season still captured George's final plans, although not fleshed out. Even if something Game of Thrones like doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised if Mikasa doesn't face off against Eren in some manner. That's whether the top Ackerman Mikasa is actually fighting Eren, or something I would probably enjoy more, which is just seeing another back and forth between these two, hopefully with Mikasa having more dialogue. And then don't forget about the blonde boy Armin. Yes, the god of destruction, my ass. Unfortunately for Armin, this guy has been heavily restricted. Cause think about it, if Armin gets out of jail, will this guy actually wreck his hometown? I guess the whole place is already destroyed and being bombarded, so that could really push Armin. Armin going Titan mode would actually be a nice parallel to the Attack on Titan Season 3 anime stuff that just concluded. This time it'll only be Armin Colossal Titan destroying the area. He does have to be careful not to set off the Colossal Nuke here. Then again, another option could be Armin trying to get close to the Jaeger brothers, then trying to nuke their asses. Either way, from this point on, I'm really betting that Armin's gonna go back to being that outside-the-box thinker that he's always been, since he's most likely realized what Eren has been up to. This also does mean a team-up between the former best buddies isn't off the table. Switching it up, the warrior side. First off, Reiner. This guy continues to be that punching bag and just blood milkshake this chapter. For the upcoming chapter, it would be interesting if Reiner actually goes head-to-head versus a Beast Titan. Besides the obvious history these guys have, recall that the Armor Titan was lost to the War Chief off-screen. So, Reiner versus a Beast Titan round 2? Please? Either way, for what happens, I really don't see Reiner dying just yet. For the Jaws Titan, Eren fricking swatted Mr. Jaws' last chapter. And to be honest, Porco really hasn't been developed that much. Plus, does anyone really like this guy? Are there any Jaws Titan fans? Or specifically Porco fans? I don't think I would mind too much if someone else takes the Jaws Titan power now, even if it's not Eren. Hey Falco, if you do go Titan mode, aim for the smaller Titan. And then for Peak. I'm really curious to find out more about Peak, so hopefully she doesn't die this next chapter. Recently, Peak has shown this other side to her, potentially wanting the Founding Titan for her own people's sake. Whether she's justified is up for debate. For her actual Titan in the battlefield. Right now she poses a huge danger to a lot of people, so ideally the Beast Titan, Armin, or any Eren ass kisser should really be targeting her Titan. Keep in mind right now, Peak does not have the armor plating, so it would be really nice to see someone borrow a Marley anti-Titan tank rifle and use it on her head. How's that for payback? Next up, let's talk about Blondie, Historia. Come on Isayama, can we get some type of update on her? I think it's been almost a year since you last saw her in the present story, and that was around the time that you found out the queen got pregnant. Since then, you technically have seen Historia, but only in flashbacks. Around half a year later, we still don't got a concrete answer on who the baby daddy is. It was actually the same thing with the WarHammer Titan ability up until the recent chapter, so I'm betting if Historia does come back, we're gonna get a quick update. At that time, you're gonna get the answer to the baby daddy question, or even another piece of this complex puzzle. Right now I'm predicting that there's a lot of stuff that Historia does know about the events playing out right now, especially regarding Eren, which may be the reason why Isayama has kept her isolated for so long. And I do mean kept solo on the island. Really nothing from Historia's mouth and no doubts from the Paradise Queen. I also do see there being a high chance for Hange to take Levi over to Historia's secret base. That way you could kill 2 titans with 1 blade. An update on Levi's situation, plus bringing the little blonde back. And then ultimately for this coming chapter, not winter is coming, but death is coming, and tons of it. So go ahead and place your bets right now. Post down below who do you think dies next chapter. I got 3 main picks. For the Paradise Island side, this goes to Coney. This guy has some major death flags on him. For the Marley side, I'm gonna go with Margath. This dude just entered the battlefield riding Peak. And as you know, those guys riding her really don't have a good track record of staying alive. He's also a leader that has treated Eldians well. In other words, this guy dying would make the situation potentially worse. Then for the warrior side, I would say Reiner, but this plot armor Titan Roach is gonna keep on living. Isayama's gonna make sure this guy suffers more and more. Right now, it is almost a tie between the Jaws Titan and Peak. As mentioned earlier, the Jaws Titan has been the least developed from these guys, so I'm leaning towards this guy. So hey guys, Jerry here. As always, thank you to all Patreon supporters. As you guys know, I've been doing a monthly live stream for anime discussions and that has actually been going really well. So I've actually been thinking about doing a second Attack on Titan focused live stream, which would drop somewhere like let's say the weekend after the Attack on Titan chapter drops. So post down below how many of you guys would be interested in that. And just to be clear, this actually would be a second live stream to the current $5 tier. In other words, no additional charge. Second thing, how many of you guys are going to Anime Expo, which is coming up like in the 4th of July weekend? Post down below if you are going. I'm thinking about doing some type of smallish meetup. Hopefully that works out. First Patreon question from Kashmir Fox. Do you think Marley is going to make use of Zeke's grandparents as a way to either contain him and or mess with him? So you actually bring up a very interesting possibility of restricting the Beast Titan. Unfortunately, there are a couple things that may prevent this from happening. The first part is that the Marley guys are right now over there in Paradise Island. At this point in the story, I really don't think they're going to go back to Marley anytime soon, and I really don't think they brought the grandparents on the blimps. Then the second thing for Zeke. When Zeke set off the whole explosion thing with the whole Levi situation, it really seemed like this guy just reached the screw it point. In the past, he really cared about his grandparents. However, I question that at this point in the story, especially since he's so close to actually achieving whatever plan he thinks he's actually going to achieve with Eren's side. Next Patreon question from Distract Enemies. Can we get a Squidward Titan in the manga now? Oh yeah, the latest beautiful Squidward moment from Reiner's ass. I do believe that guy was technically in the manga, so you kind of already got that. If you specifically want a mindless Titan, I'm not sure that Isayama's a fan of SpongeBob. Next question up from Infamous Chi. How do you think Zeke will take down the Car Titan and her artillery? If they get a good shot off of him, the battle will most likely go to Marley. Unfortunately, I really think that the Beast Titan already screwed this up. You saw this guy making the grand entrance, freaking throwing something at Reiner. So right there at that moment, the Beast Titan had the element of surprise, but he just threw that away for some reason. He could have really at least aimed something over at the Peak Titan. Fortunately for Zeke, it really seems like whatever they're using, that cannon thing, for that to actually be effective, you actually have to be standing still. So I do see the Beast Titan potentially getting hurt by that, but maybe not in the head. For now, I still want to see my prediction about someone using a sniper to hit Peak's head. Next question up from Cake. Do you think Historia will have the baby during the events in which the battle will occur? So this goes back to the question about whether this is the final battle, which is I think what you're asking. Honestly, unless one of the sides runs away somehow, I really don't see how this battle takes longer than, say, a couple of hours. For the actual due date for Historia's baby, I think that's soon, but it still might be like a month or two away. So unless something weird happens like the Colossal Titans get released, then there's a few weeks time skip, I really don't think Historia's baby is going to come out yet, especially not during this battle. Talking about Attack on Titan, how about this upcoming Attack on Titan Season 3 figure? You got Titan Eren versus Reiner's Super Hard Armor Titan. Look at those abs. Also, Mikasa flying aiming for that rock hard ass too. Hashtag not sponsored. Anyway, if you are a figure guy and interested, pre-orders open on June 15th. They are going to be taking pre-orders, but only 850 total. Can you guess why they picked 850? And yes, if any of you guys have been around a while or follow me on Twitter, you know how much I freaking love anime figures. I might need to get this high quality Attack on Titan one. Next up, your Twitter questions. As always, follow me on Twitter and tweet me your question for a chance for me to answer your question. That's especially if you don't like the questions being asked. For hardcore fans, I do have a guaranteed question for Patreon supporters. And don't forget about the monthly livestream that I mentioned for Patreon. In addition to Attack on Titan Focus, livestream may be coming. Check the Patreon link down below so you don't miss out. First Twitter question from R. What do you think Eren's expression at the end of the chapter meant? He may have surmised Zeke defeated Levi. So recall from the recent chapter, Eren looked a little surprised and also looking like freaking Ukiyoda from Bleach. About Eren actually figuring out that Zeke defeated Levi? That may be a little bit of a stretch for Eren. I'm actually trying to think back whether Eren knew about the whole Zeke being in the forest situation with Levi guarding his ass, which he might have known. But just keep in mind, Zeke could have just escaped on his own, somehow. Next question up from Small Leaf and Big Leaf Emoji. Do you think that either Zeke or Eren will eventually sacrifice themselves as they're eventually gonna die because of the 13-year rule? So it's funny because he mentioned anime followers, but if you've actually been reading the manga, it actually feels like Eren and Zeke are already sacrificing themselves. Zeke at this point has less than half a year left. And Eren, well, we saw this guy recently go rogue. This guy is gonna die eventually in a few years, but he's a guy on a mission, which is most likely why he's trying to speed everything up right now. Next question up from iCollide. What are your takes on the possibility of Porco dying? Will he end up sacrificing himself like Marcel to save Reiner? It is funny that you mention this, since if Porco does sacrifice himself to save Reiner, it would be a parallel. At the same time, it would be a very obvious parallel, which is why this actually has been a popular idea over the years. So would Isayama actually take out the Jaws Titan in this manner? I wouldn't be surprised if he does do it. But for me, this really going back to this being the very obvious parallel, I kinda hope something else happens. Next question up from Secretion. How do you picture Armin coming into the fight? I picture Eren going back to the cell, picking Armin up, and throwing him into the crowd of Marley soldiers like a nuke grenade. I find that kinda funny. So that would happen if they weren't fighting in their hometown, plus if Armin was still on his side. What you described kind of already happened at the attack on Marley anyway. So I already mentioned earlier about the Armin nuke situation on the Jaeger brothers. If I had to randomly pick something else, how about this weird random situation where Armin, maybe by accident, just nukes the wall. Then at that point the walls start crumbling, or at least part of the wall, and some colossal titans come out. That would make things interesting. Next question up from ID Prawns. Once Attack on Titan finishes, do you think this will go down as the GOAT anime? Oh yes, will Attack on Titan be a tasting goat? So here are my quick thoughts on this. Much like the manga, I do see there being two central points for the Attack on Titan story, and therefore by extension the Attack on Titan anime. In other words, people are really going to see the anime in two parts. From the start of the story, all the way up until the point where they get into the basement, which will be around episode 59. And then the second part being post time skip, which may be season 4 and or season 5. In other words, that's how people are going to grade this. For a lot of people, I do see the first part being the GOAT, at least the best thing possible. The post time skip stuff, that's still questionable, especially depending on how it ends. Next question up from Ryshot. Can Elida and her friends use the 3D maneuver gear? So I've actually seen this question brought up a lot, and I'm not sure why there's too much confusion about it. If you think back to Attack on Titan Season 1, how many years or months did the scouts train to actually be able to use that? I would expect them to at least need maybe like a month, at minimum, to be able to use it in some manner. So unfortunately for Yelena and the other guys, if they actually do use the 3D maneuver gear right now, I only really see them going splatter. Next question up from Bert. Do you think Annie is trying to learn how to turn into a Titan while in her crystal? Unfortunately for Annie, I really don't think she's been trying to do anything. If anything, she's just been in this like Captain America hibernation state. Presumably right now that Titan crystal is in some ways her Titan form. You know, like in the past when Eren has gone Titan mode and turned his whole Titan into a crystal. For some reason, Annie never figured out how to actually escape that. Besides, if Annie was actually trying to do something, I really don't think it would have taken her over 4 years to come up with something. Next question up from Get Wi-Fi. If Annie and Armin join the final battle, which side would they take? So I touched on the Armin thing a little bit earlier. Either he's going to completely go against the Jaeger brothers, or Armin's going to realize what exactly these guys are up to and join their side. For Annie, I'm still questioning how exactly she gets involved in this battle, which I still haven't come up with a good idea, and I haven't seen any good ideas from you guys. But say that Annie just randomly joins in, I would still expect Annie to be super confused. Potentially, Annie may not even join a side, she should just get the hell away from there. Run to the forest. Next question up from MarkMeister18. Do you think there's a possibility that Zeke will betray Eren in some way at the end of the chapter? Or would you expect one of the warriors dying or badly injured next chapter, if Zeke doesn't betray Eren? So in terms of possibilities, whether Zeke actually tries to betray Eren, if that still is on the table, I don't see that happening next chapter. I mean, these guys are engaged in a freaking battle. So for the highest possibility, I do see a warrior dying, or at the very minimum getting super injured. Isayama might pull the card where it looks like they died, and then cliffhanger moment. The next question up from Hanji Zo. So why Armin being useless? I mean, he couldn't transform because of the nuke, and he didn't need the Colossal Titan to be. He already done great work in the first 90 chapters without any power. This is the final arc already. I'm glad he mentioned this so I could actually bring it up in the video. It really feels like people are being way too hard on Armin recently. I know some of you guys want Armin to do something in jail, but really? Aside from trying to do a partial transformation which may blow the whole thing up, I'm not sure what the guy could do. Keep in mind, Armin was a very key player in the attack on Marley. Arguably, that's the only reason these guys escaped and Eren actually got out of there with the WarHammer Titan. So I'm still waiting for one of you guys to mention some type of scenario where Armin could be quote-unquote less useless. If you guys have any ideas, do post it down below. Next question up from Khan. Do you think Annie can get any big role for the upcoming chapter, or is it impossible as only a few chapters are left? Oh, so it seems Annie's as popular as ever. Why are you so popular yet you've only been sleeping? Really just touching on what I mentioned before, I'm still having a hard time seeing how exactly Annie's integrated back into the story. With Attack on Titan potentially ending in chapter 130 to 140, I really don't see how Annie at this point where she's been gone for years and years. I really don't see how Isayama really makes her a key player now. At this point, I'm hoping that she doesn't just come back and then dies immediately. Next question up from Deathlord. Do you think we might see a Ymir flashback soon? I want to know the story of Ymir and Karl Fritz. And yeah, at this point, who really doesn't want to see some type of Ymir flashback? We gotta know more pieces of this whole Titan puzzle. At this point, I'm really hoping Isayama doesn't wait until the very end and does maybe a few months of just flashback chapters. Because if this is the final arc, it feels like this is where the story is heading. It could be something like similar to when they found the basement reveal. Then you had like 4 Marley flashback chapters in a row. Next question up from Salvik. Do you think Eren is for or against the euthanasia plan? I think so far from what we've seen, it's pointing towards Eren being completely against it. If you think back, there was a whole flashback between him and Zeke back at Marley. When Zeke was discussing the details about the whole plan, Eren never agreed to it. That by itself I think was pretty telling. Next question up from Anya. Who do you think is the best choice for the serum? Erwin or Armin? So this is actually a great question and really just a whole video topic. Hopefully have a chance to actually dive into this soon. As to who is a better choice, honestly right now it's pretty hard to tell. I mean really, who could have imagined the situation these guys are in right now 4 years back their time? So let me actually just toss this question back to you guys watching. Who do you think would have been better, Armin or Erwin, and why? I think we'll definitely get a clear answer once the Attack on Titan story is actually over. Next question up from Booth. Do you think Levi will die / be crippled and be dished off the story? Or is there a chance of him inheriting a Titan power, possibly the Jealous Titan or Armor Titan? So for the first part, I actually went in depth on that in my recent Levi video. At this point, just ignoring stuff happening in the actual story, Levi is much too big of a moneymaker for Attack on Titan, which might be the reason why Isayama did what he did, just to get Levi off the playing field. As for this guy inheriting a Titan power, I really don't see how you move this guy over to that battlefield, unless he gets magically healed somehow. I personally just want to see Hange inject this guy with some Titan juices just to see what happens. Next question up from Ed Harsh. How do you see the role of Gabby in the future chapters? I personally believe she is somehow getting all the shifters and gonna humanize, as I'm expecting Eren will not, even if he manages to collect all Titan shifters. So that scenario at the very end makes me think that you've been watching too much Game of Thrones recently. So it's actually interesting because so far, the role of Gabby in the recent chapters that I've been predicting has come true in the latest chapter. She's really just been this almost camera or recorder, just a way to pass information to the Marley guys. Now going forward in the story, the role of Gabby really may be diminished even further. I really don't think she's going to play that big of an importance now. But who knows, potentially she could just get the Jaws Titan power. It would at least make things interesting. Next question up from Naymaster. Do you think Eren will eat another Titan shifter? If so, which one? And for this question, definitely jump down below. Post your bets. So recently I mentioned that most likely the Jaws Titan, but if I did have to pick another one, how about if you get into this scenario where the Beast Titan is dying, then Eren, really just to kill the steel, eats his brother and takes him hostage, or I guess consumes him and takes the power. That would be a nice twist. Next question up from Dark Zoe. The Warriors might be trying to save Annie. Do you think she'll appear next chapter? Okay, so I've answered this question so many times, but let me just double down on this. Right now, there's no reason for the Warriors trying to save Annie. What they're trying to do now with Eren and trying to kill him or take the Founding Titan, that takes super priority. Annie, or especially anything else, after they deal with the whole Eren situation, they could then deal with that. Next question up from Content. Do you think Reiner will use his Titan plot armor to BS his way out of a life or death situation? Pretty easy answer to this one. Will the sun rise tomorrow? Next question up from Davis. Do you think the Founding Titan can change mindless Titans back to their normal human self? So for this, definitely check out my Founding Titan video. I went in depth on this one. Next question up from Danko. Do you believe Pixies is a devil agent or something? Remember in season 1 he told Eren on the wall the history of Karl Fritz about the fake piece. It was supposed to be that only the Tiber family knew about it and the carrier of the coordinate. So I'm actually thinking back to this. I actually don't recall Pixies specifically mentioning the fake piece with connection to Karl Fritz. Actually, now that I'm thinking even more about it, if I recall specifically for what Pixies mentioned in season 1, this guy was pretty vague on what he was talking about. I would actually just suggest rewatching the season 1 episodes so you could clear this up. Anyway, that does wrap it up. If you made it this far, definitely give a close thumbs up. It helps so much. Bonus question for whoever made it to the end. What do you think is going to happen with Kiyomi? She's still around somewhere. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and definitely consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Let me know down below if you're interested in an Attack on Titan only livestream. In the meantime, check out the Patreon good stuff down below, and I'll see you guys later.